For those of you who might not be familiar with Zaha Hadid, she was a British Iraqi architect. She was born in Baghdad in 1950 and then moved to Lebanon to do her undergraduate education, where she studied math and philosophy and physics. She then moved to London in 1972 and studied at the Architectural Association of London, which was a really important school for modernist architects. While she was in London, she also started her own architecture firm called Zaha Hadid Architects. And that architecture firm was known for buildings made around the world that defied the conventions of architecture and really what we think of when we talk about buildings. As a part of that architecture studio, she originally started also doing furniture as well, and then in 2006 established a design studio called Zaha Hadid Design. And that's the collection you're going to see here today. Zaha Hadid was also the architect of our building. She won an international competition in 2008, and our building opened in 2012. And Hadid designed this building specifically with our audiences and our location in mind. Our collection of work by Zaha Hadid Design encompasses prints to paintings to bookshelves, tables, chairs, shoes, clothing, vases, and a little bit of everything in between. We continue to acquire work by Zaha Hadid Design, and to date we have the largest collection of work by Zaha Hadid Design in North America. So let's check it out. To my right, you're going to see a bookshelf called Tella, and you're going to see a series of vases called Braid. Throughout the gallery, you'll see different moments like this where smaller objects and larger objects are put together so that you get an idea of how objects would be used in their context. But by seeing these different types of objects together, we're also learning a bit more about the different scales that Zaha Hadid thought at. The Tella bookshelf is made of a really heavy granite, but if you look at it, it doesn't look like it's heavy, and it doesn't look like it's a really difficult material to work with. She creates these very soft curves that look very natural. We also see this in the Braid vases, which are made of a very special type of bone china porcelain that's very fragile. However, the vases are very tall and they look very strong, but they also have very similar curves that echo that of Tella. These curves from the Braid vase to the Tella bookshelf also carry us through to the London Aquatic Centre painting that you can see on my left. You'll see that the London Aquatic Centre painting is very curvilinear. The building that is featured in the painting is the London Aquatic Centre, which Zaha Hadid was commissioned to make for the London Summer Olympics. Many people don't know that a lot of her process involved working carefully by hand. So before anything was ever rendered or anything was ever built, she often drew things out and then made different kinds of models or paintings to get a sense of their form, but also the ways that the buildings would exist in their landscape. From the curves of the bookshelf to the curves of the painting, we arrive at the curves of Orcus, the set of 4 chairs you see here, and Slamp, the set of 4 lights that you see hanging above them. The lights that come from Slamp, which are called Aria and Avia, actually help you to see the shadows and the shapes of Orcus when the two interact with each other. We also put these two objects together so you can see the ways that the same source of inspiration actually creates 2 very different forms. In a lot of her practice, Hadid was very much inspired by nature, natural shapes, and the various events in nature that change our landscape. Orcus, which was actually made of Carrara marble, which is a very hard material to work with, is rendered into these very soft shapes that look like a flower blooming. Nature also informed her thinking about the lights, which are inspired by the shape of water. And you can actually see a parallel between the shapes that are used in the lights and the shapes that are used in the London Aquatic Centre painting. The themes of nature and materiality also connect and culminate in our building. And as you go through the gallery, you'll actually learn more about our building as you're looking at other objects and reading about them in the extended labels that we provide. The material that you see on the exterior of the building is a special material called angel hair that was created specifically for us and for our building, designed in such a way that it would interact with Michigan's seasons. And so all parts of our building were very much site-specific and very thoughtful. To anchor the building in its environment, we are sitting on what is called a raft foundation. So our building sits on the land much like a boat sits on water, and it keeps our building very much connected to its environment and campus. And you can see a small version of our building here with this model, and you can get a much closer idea and clearer idea of how all of the different design elements come together. For example, there are lots of very cool lines on the roof that otherwise you couldn't see. After you look closely at the building, make sure you look closely at the silver lines that you see on the walls in this gallery, but also the risers that the furniture sits on, because both of those design features in this gallery are actually inspired by the shapes and the features of our building. As you move farther back into the gallery, what you're going to see are different examples of the scales that Hadid thought at. So we know her buildings are big, we know her furniture can be really big and dynamic too, but she was also thinking on a very small scale. We can see this interest in the user experience when we look at the door handle. This door handle was designed for a hotel in Madrid, and the design process actually took 4 years, and it was a part of a much larger plan to actually design an entire floor of the hotel with a very seamless experience. As we arrive at this table called Mesa, we can see a number of the different elements that we've discussed today come together. Mesa, of course, refers to a natural landform, which again speaks to Hadid's interest in nature. The way that the form of the table actually came about relates back to Hadid's hand-drawn and hand-painted materials. Part of the design for the table was inspired by a plan that she had for the Abu Dhabi Performing Arts Center. That building was never realized, but they had very similar lines that expanded, and there was a similar sense of elasticity and play with media that translates across the two. The table was commissioned by a company named Vitra, and Vitra was actually the fire station that Hadid made, and it was one of her earlier large commissions. We can also think about the table like water lilies that are floating on top and are separate, but underneath are interconnected, again referring to Hadid's interest in nature. This chair is called Kuki 1, and again, it speaks to her interest in materials because it's one of the first uses of carbon fiber in color. But it's also very playful, inspired by the shape of a fortune cookie, hence the name Kuki. We have a new way of thinking about a chair, where we ask questions about, does a chair really have to be a back with 4 legs, or can the form of a chair look differently? And that happens not only through experimentation, but also a consideration of different kind of media. We also see her very playful nature in niche, which are the centerpieces that are seen to my right. Niche is a centerpiece that you can use to, for example, serve food, or you can just have it as a sculpture on your table. As you come and check out the gallery, I encourage you to take Hadid's quote to heart. There are 360 degrees. Why stick to one? As you walk around the gallery, look closely. Look from different angles. Think about how the objects and furniture that we use every day and that inhabit our everyday spaces might be considered in new ways by taking a look at the work that Hadid and her studios have done. If you want to learn more about Zaha Hadid, the MSU Broad Art Museum's building, or our collection of work by Zaha Hadid Design, you can head over to the museum's website to learn more. Check out Seeing in 360 Degrees, the Zaha Hadid Design collection at the Eli and Edith Broad Art Museum at Michigan State University.